Hannibal versus Scipio, the epic battle of Zama that changed history forever. The clash between Hannibal Barca and Scipio Africanus at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC is one of the most iconic military confrontations in history, marking the dramatic conclusion of the Second Punic War. Hannibal, the brilliant Carthaginian general who had terrorized Rome for nearly 2 decades, now faced his greatest challenge, defending his homeland against the rising star of Roman military genius. Scipio, having learned from Rome's previous humiliating defeats at the hands of Hannibal, meticulously prepared his forces for this decisive encounter. The fate of Carthage and Rome itself hung in the balance, and neither commander could afford to fail. The story begins years before Zama, when a young Hannibal swore eternal hatred for Rome at the altar of his gods. His legendary campaigns, including the daring crossing of the Alps with war elephants and the devastating victories at Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and Cannae, had made him a nightmare for the Roman Republic. Yet, despite his military brilliance, Hannibal could never force Rome to surrender. Meanwhile, Scipio Africanus was quietly building his reputation. After surviving the catastrophe at Cannae, he led a successful campaign in Hispania, cutting off Carthage's resources and establishing himself as Rome's most capable general. By 204 BC, Scipio had set his sights on North Africa. His strategy was bold. Instead of continuing the stalemate in Italy, he would strike directly at Carthage, forcing Hannibal to return home. This maneuver would neutralize Hannibal's advantage and allow Rome to fight on its own terms. Scipio's invasion of Africa was initially met with success, as he defeated Carthaginian forces and their Numidian allies. However, Hannibal, now recalled from Italy, prepared to make his final stand. The two generals, both at the peak of their abilities, now faced each other in a battle that would decide the destiny of their civilizations. The battlefield of Zama, located in what is now modern Tunisia, was chosen by Hannibal with the hope of leveraging his war elephants and superior cavalry. Hannibal commanded a diverse force, about 50,000 infantry, including veteran Carthaginian soldiers, mercenaries from Gaul and Spain, and around 80 war elephants. His cavalry, however, was weakened due to the loss of key Numidian allies who had defected to the Romans under the leadership of Massinissa. Scipio, on the other hand, commanded approximately 35,000 infantry and a superior cavalry force of about 8,000, including the crucial Numidian horsemen. As dawn broke on the day of the battle, both generals delivered impassioned speeches to their troops. Hannibal reminded his men of their past glories and the sacred duty to protect their homeland. Scipio, conversely, inspired his soldiers with promises of glory, revenge, and the security of Rome. The stage was set for a monumental confrontation. Hannibal arranged his army in 3 lines, the first composed of mercenaries, the second of Carthaginian citizens and allies, and the third of his battle-hardened veterans who had campaigned with him in Italy. His elephants were positioned at the front, intended to break the Roman lines with their initial charge. Scipio, anticipating the elephant assault, devised an ingenious formation. He arranged his infantry maniples with gaps between them, creating channels through which the elephants could be directed harmlessly. Behind these gaps, Roman velites, light infantry, were stationed to harass the elephants and steer them away. As the Carthaginian elephants charged, the Roman soldiers shouted and blew horns, causing panic among the animals. Many of the elephants veered off course, trampling their own troops or fleeing the battlefield. Some, however, reached the Roman lines, but Scipio's disciplined soldiers held firm, minimizing the damage. With the elephants neutralized, the infantry lines clashed. Hannibal's first 2 lines fought valiantly, but were ultimately pushed back by the Roman legions. Scipio's forces, well-rested and highly trained, maintained their cohesion and gradually gained the upper hand. The real challenge, however, lay ahead. Hannibal's third line, composed of his veteran soldiers, many of whom had fought alongside him for over a decade. These men represented the finest warriors Carthage had to offer, and they were determined to defend their city to the last breath. Scipio, cautious of overextending his forces, paused to reorganize his troops before engaging the veteran line. This brief respite allowed the Roman soldiers to recover their strength and maintain their formations. The ensuing clash between Scipio's legions and Hannibal's veterans was brutal and evenly matched. For a time, it seemed that the battle could go either way, with neither side willing to yield. Yet the tide turned when Scipio ordered his cavalry, which had initially been driven off the field, to return and attack Hannibal's rear. The Roman and Numidian cavalry, led by Massinissa and Laelius, executed a devastating pincer movement, encircling the Carthaginian army. Hannibal's veterans, now surrounded, fought desperately but were ultimately overwhelmed. The coordinated assault from both front and rear shattered Carthaginian resistance. Hannibal, recognizing the inevitability of defeat, ordered a retreat. Despite his best efforts and tactical brilliance, he could not overcome Scipio's superior strategy, disciplined troops, and decisive use of cavalry. The aftermath of the Battle of Zama was catastrophic for Carthage. Hannibal survived the battle but was forced to flee, marking the end of his military career. Carthage, stripped of its power, was compelled to accept humiliating peace terms. It surrendered its fleet, paid a massive indemnity, and ceded significant territories to Rome. The once mighty Carthaginian Empire was reduced to a shadow of its former self, while Rome emerged as the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean. Scipio, henceforth known as Scipio Africanus, returned to Rome in triumph, celebrated as one of the greatest generals in Roman history. The significance of the Battle of Zama extends beyond the military victory. It marked the definitive end of Carthage's challenge to Roman supremacy and paved the way for the expansion of Roman influence throughout the Mediterranean world. The tactical lessons of Zama, particularly the effective use of cavalry and the neutralization of war elephants, have been studied by military strategists for centuries. Moreover, the personal rivalry between Hannibal and Scipio has captivated historians and scholars as an example of two contrasting styles of leadership and warfare. Hannibal's legacy, despite his defeat, remains monumental. He is remembered as one of history's greatest military commanders, whose innovative tactics and audacious strategies left an indelible mark on the art of war. His campaigns demonstrated the importance of mobility, surprise, and psychological warfare, principles that continue to influence military thought today. Scipio, in contrast, exemplified the Roman virtues of discipline, adaptability, and strategic foresight. His ability to learn from past mistakes and turn them into strengths was instrumental in securing Rome's future as an empire. In the years following Zama, Hannibal transitioned to a political role in Carthage, implementing reforms aimed at revitalizing the city. However, his enemies in Rome continued to view him as a threat. Pursued relentlessly by Roman agents, Hannibal eventually fled into exile, moving between various eastern courts before ultimately taking his own life to avoid capture. Scipio's later years were marked by political conflict within Rome. Despite his military achievements, he faced accusations of corruption and eventually withdrew from public life, dying in relative obscurity compared to the grandeur of his victories. The Battle of Zama stands as a testament to the complexity of history, where triumph and tragedy often intertwine. It reminds us that even the most brilliant leaders can be undone by shifting alliances, strategic miscalculations, and the relentless march of empire. The encounter between Hannibal and Scipio at Zama was not merely a clash of armies, but a meeting of minds. Two of the most extraordinary military intellects of the ancient world, each striving for survival and supremacy. As we reflect on this epic confrontation, it is impossible not to marvel at the strategic brilliance and human drama that unfolded on the plains of Zama, over 2 millennia ago. The lessons of courage, resilience, and the consequences of ambition resonate as powerfully today as they did in the ancient world. Whether as a student of history, a military enthusiast, or simply someone intrigued by the stories that shaped our civilization, the tale of Hannibal and Scipio offers timeless insights into the nature of leadership and conflict. If you found this deep dive into the Battle of Zama fascinating, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more epic historical battles and untold stories from the past. Drop a comment below with your thoughts on who you think was the greater general, Hannibal or Scipio. And don't forget to share this video with fellow history buffs. Let us keep the spirit of history alive together.